Welcome, everybody, to This Moment Action, a weekly webinar series every Thursday at 2 p.m. I'm your host, Allie Palmer, a musician, producer, writer, best known for my work with the long-term activist band Betty, and also One at One Equality Actions. And our co-host today is...
Samir Salmanovic. I live up in Harlem. Love it there. I'm interested in everything that has to do with cooking, transformation, or leadership. Right now, I'm on a bus traveling around the country through 50 states with votecommongood.com, and we are trying to invite religious and faith voters to consider common good as a criteria when they vote. So it's exciting. I'm right now in Boston, Massachusetts.
All right. Well, we're delighted today to be with the Reverend Jacqueline Lewis, the Senior Minister of Middle Collegiate Church in the East Village here in New York City. She's a sought-after speaker, a writer, and the galvanizing force behind the Revolutionary Love Conference 2020. Thanks for being with us today, Jacqui.
I'm so glad to be with you, Allie and Samir. How are you?
Very, very happy on this day, because today some great things are happening with our Congress, and we always love when that's happening. So let's hope that that continues on through the year. We had a question for you, Jacqui, and that is just to dive into it. With all the events that are happening this year, this election year, why the Revolutionary Love Conference? Why now?
Why now? This is the urgency of now. Dr. King talked about the fierce urgency of now. This will actually be our 14th Revolutionary Love Conference. But never has it been more important to pull people together from off the sidelines, from places of polarity, conversations, into a central place of love and power making, so we can actually make America just and maybe democratic for the very first time.
Oh, that's fantastic. So when people are hearing about the Revolutionary Love Conference, tell us about it. Where is it going to be and when?
April 24 to 26 in Washington, D.C. We're going to gather at All Souls Church Universalist, right near Malcolm X Park, up on top of a hill, and pull together, we hope, 1,000 activists, artists, speakers, leaders, regular folks who are doing amazing things in the world, to convene so we can put together the best of our thinking, the best of our hopes, the best of our imagination, so that we can create strategies and tactics to actually make the 2020 election redeem the soul of America, as I would say it, Allie.
So who are you having? Who are some of the people that are going to be coming to?
So many amazing people. Mama Ruby Sales will be there. Ryan McLaren, who's an author and an activist. Valerie Kaur, who just has a new book that came out. Linda Sarsour with a new book. We've got Jewish leaders, Islamic leaders, Sikh leaders, secular leaders. Betty's going to be performing.
That's right.
Sweet Honey in the Rock. So if you can think about the best thought leaders, from a young climate activist named Jerome Foster to somebody really well known like William Barber, Simone Campbell, who takes the nuns on the bus to sort of make America right again. A great diversity of speakers and thinkers so that we can learn the best practices, Allie, but also really organize with one another.
Well, I have a question. These days, just like we're doing now, is a webinar. Why do you think that people need to come together in person to do this? Why can't people just live stream?
I'm wearing my heart for you today, Allie, because this is how I move in the world.
I love that.
I think we have to touch each other sometimes, right? At my congregation in New York City Middle Church, where you happen to be a member, one of the best things that happens every Sunday is our passing the peace.
That's true.
We just move around the room and hug each other and touch each other. There's something about putting our hearts on one another, something about holding hands, making eye contact, that helps us to recognize the good in the other and remind us that we still know how to have critical conversations in person, as opposed to all this virtual stuff. I love the virtual, don't get me wrong, but just to be able to vibe with each other in person, I think is really important.
Some people say that it's actually consuming the same air and the same light that actually puts people in the same mind space. So
I think that's right. I really do. So there'll be lots of ways to connect, right? Some of us won't be able to travel to DC. We hope you can. But for those who can't, we're going to be streaming live at Middle Church, the Revolutionary Love Conference on, again, April 24 to 26. But also on Saturday, we have this really big rally called This Moment. And
That's
I'm
right.
so excited that we get to partner with Vote Common Good and with Revolutionary Love and the Poor People's Campaign to actually, again, breathe the same air and feel the sunlight or the rain.
Mm-hmm.
A rally that goes from 1 to 5, where there will be a chance to hear good music and good speakers, but also walk by tables and get registered to vote, or walk by and pick up information about how to deal with gun violence or women's reproductive rights. So a chance to sort of have one part rally, one part music fest, and one part community organizing.
An artistic uprising. And I
Exactly.
love that Middle Church is always about artistic uprising. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite things, Jacqui, is when you go to the Middle Church website, on the top for the directions, it'll say, welcome home, and then it says artists, and it says growth, and then it says love and justice,
Right.
which in my way of upcoming, churches were about rules and about restrictions and about things that you shouldn't do. Have you ever run into conflict with the forces that be about how you run your multiracial, multi-loving church?
Absolutely. That's the fun part about it, breaking the rules. I mean, this is not this is not your mama's church. This is a kind of community of radical lovers, some of whom don't claim to be Christian at all, but who understand that there's a real power in love as a public ethic.
Mm-hmm.
That Rabbi Jesus would say, you know, love God, love neighbor, love self. And we just say love, period. And that's kind of the religion that we're growing. And so we have Jewish members and Muslim members and atheist members and agnostic members. And what draws us together in the same orbit is a belief that there is something inside us that is actually stronger when we amplify it together. And that something can change the vibration in the world. And that is what we're up to.
Perfect. We're all on the same page, and I love that. One of my favorite expressions ever is that if there's no dancing, I want no part of your revolution.
Amen.
And I love the fact that everything that you personally are involved with, Reverend Jacqui, has to do with either music or dancing or some kind of celebration of human spirit and soul. I think that's a great way to move through the world.
I think so, Allie. And you know, I'm an African-American person, so I come from African schools.
What?
Breaking news. But I come from African people where, you know, the drumming and the movement and the calling down of spirits is about how you move. And what a blessing it is to be people who understand that art is its own kind of language. So let's dance, let's sing, let's paint, let's move, let's vibrate love and healing in this nation right now, because it is an urgent moment in time.
Yeah, which leads me to a question to you, my dear, and that is, we get news all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes lies are being spewed. There's corruption that is obvious. What do you do in your times of despair? How do you turn that despair into hope?
That's such a great question. You know, I did a lot of travel last week. I went to Paris last week to do some preaching there, and that was awesome. But I was in a cocoon called an airplane, right, for 8 hours on the way back, and I just listened to music. I listened to gospel music. I listened to Native American music. I listened to classical music, jazz. Listening to music feels to me like almost like a heartbeat. Like maybe it's back to my mother's womb in some kind of way, but I feel like I'm lulled into new places when I listen to music, and it's like a prayer. So that's what I personally do. I know lots of people have different meditative practices or yoga or running, but for me, it's like put your headphones on and really get into some music.
I love that, because anybody can do that.
Yeah.
Anybody who has the ability to do that, except for our deaf friends, and still there's even a way that they can communicate on that other vibration.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for being with us. I see that there's lots of questions. So Samir, let's go to some of the questions that we have.
All right. Hello, everybody. It's so good to be in a place like this that's safe and there's joy and there's hope. We all need some sort of a new way to manage ourselves in this time. And I wanted to ask you, Jacqui, and a lot of people ask that kind of thing, is how do you move in the world in the places where people have such a different opinion? They are maybe from a family or neighbors or coworkers that are anxious about whichever side they are on. They're anxious, they're frustrated, they're afraid.
Yeah.
And while you go to your work, however you do it, you know, you also hear some daily news, and a lot of us kind of, somebody says like, we come beaten to the, you know, to the workplace. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, you know, Samir, sometimes we put stuff up on our website, like how to have a carefrontational conversation. I'd say, I think
Carefrontational.
carefront. Yeah, carefrontation.
Yeah.
I remember right after the election in 2016, people were so upset. And it was like Christmas at Middle Church. We were packed out. People wanting to come to a place not to learn how to fight, but to learn how to love. And I think if we can embrace that the otherness, the difference, the tension in the different opinions actually has something instructional for us if we cannot be threatened by it. So I think if we put the care in front of the confront and call it carefrontation, it might lead us to ask questions as opposed to demanding things. Like we might say, I might say, Bob, I'm so confused about how you can still support this administration when they're so anti-immigrant or something. Could you please tell me about that? Tell me your story. Or tell me about your dreams. How does this position help you fulfill your dreams, right? So to be curious about what the person is bringing to the table and to think about it as carefronting as opposed to fighting. And maybe we're going to get to a place where we find out, yeah, this part is where we disagree, but there's more of a Venn diagram of overlap than we ever imagined. I'm going to talk now.
I believe in those Venn diagrams. The Venn diagram is what America should be based on. Because we have all these cultures coming from all over the world, there has to be certain places where we can all meet in the middle. And I think that's, as we've been speaking separately, the three of us, the decency in our discourse is so important now. We need to be able to speak to each other in a way of kindness and respect. And just like you said, ask questions and not come in all the time hardline with what our truth is. That's the only way we can go ahead.
And because if we're hardwired to our point of view, we are not going to grow. And if we're not growing, we're not alive.
I really like, Jacqui, two questions you asked, and what comes from these questions is that you really ask questions for which you don't have an answer.
Right.
Usually our questions are either for some other cause, you know, like to make a point, to care, to show love, to whatever.
Right.
But actually being curious and asking, what is your real riddle inside? I do not understand you. Can you help me explain so I can understand you? That's honest.
That's really honest, yeah.
Right.
And everybody wants to be seen and heard and known. So if you are honestly curious, I think people will reveal themselves to you.
100% agreed on that.
Yeah.
So, Samir, do we have somebody from California who has a question, it looks like there? Thank you, by the way, everybody who has written in or who is writing in and who's here with us from coast to coast.
The next question I have here is something that it's about our voice. You know, questions about like, how do you make your voice heard? For me, on this bus tour, we talk about progressives and people who are looking to the future, sort of revolutionary love kind of people. We tend to think or speak with inside voice. You know, I was in a Trump rally just a couple of days ago to see, and people speak with outside voice directly.
Yes.
You know, while they're waiting inside. A lot of us who are progressives want to be thoughtful and patient, but that translates often in, you know, quiet.
Wow, that is really interesting, Samir.
Because, and I don't see their outside voice as offensive. I just see it direct. So what would be our special strength as progressives? How do we elevate our voice in a way that's appropriate, that it works?
That is such a good question. I think I'm having an insight that sometimes in our progressiveness, in our openness, quote, we are silent, but we don't declare ourselves in a way. So today, I know that our friends on the border Camila Perez is organizing a whole bunch of people to keep doing days of witness down on the border. And we're going to do a campaign from February 14 to 17. And so I'm thinking about what's his voice. You know, last night he wrote a kind of desperate email to me, Samir, like so sad, like no one's listening anymore, you know? And so there was something plaintive is what I want to say in his voice, and something kind of full of pathos. And it felt so genuine to me that the first thing I did this morning was, how many people can I send this email to? And how many people can I invite to echo his voice? So what am I wanting to say? Something like listening for the vulnerable, listening for the plaintiff, listening for the truth in the yearning for justice, right? The yearning for a world that we could create together. That's the voice I hope we can find in each other and amplify. Because my sense is some of the folks who are acting out of fear and voting for fear and making policies for fear have the same vulnerabilities as I do. I want my kids to be okay. I want food on my table. I want to feel safe. I want to feel like the American dream can still be mine. So can we hear the plaintive voice, the yearning, the desire for goodness in each other?
I love that, because if we speak that, then people on so-called other side can resonate on that wavelength.
I hope so.
Of humanity and need. So I imagine, you know, on a Thanksgiving or when people get together, somebody standing up, instead of saying, here's what I think, here's what I believe, here's what should be, say something like you said, I'm scared.
I'm scared.
And I love our community, our nation.
Right.
And I don't know what to do. And say that in a direct way, because that vulnerability is actually a powerful voice.
I think so.
Also, let us point out that one of the ways that the other side does speak up and does make their voice heard is through music, is through art, is through dance. And if you look coast to coast in this nation and around the world where there are oppressive regimes, people are rising up. Artists are rising. And I think that's another way that we can be fed. Just like you said, Jacqui, before, it's another way that we can be fed and we can hear voice from outside. And I've got a very sad voice to say right now because we have come to the end of our time. That's all the time we have. And for links and for anything else, please feel free to go to thismomentaction.org, and you can find all the things that Jacqui was mentioning or that Samir was mentioning, or that I've mentioned. You can always find your way there. And may we all suggest to you that every day you ask yourself one simple question, and that is, if not me, who? And if not at this moment, when? Because that's what we're here for. Thank you so much, Reverend Jacqui. We'll be back in 2 weeks with our next live guest, who is Eve Ensler, the brilliant Eve Ensler. And every other week, our friend Samir is going to be giving us a simple action to help us all stay on track. And we hope that everybody joins us April 24th through 26th for the Revolutionary Love Conference 2020 in Washington, D.C. And on Saturday, April 25th at 1 p.m. for our free artistic uprising, This Moment Rally, an ethical spectacle. All kinds of musicians and artists and dance for the whole family. We'd love to have everyone. But right now, for Samir, for Ben Perry, for our whole team, I'm Allie Palmer, wishing you an amazing day. Thanks for being with us.
All right. See you next week. We have every week.
Bye now.
All right. Bye.
Bye, Jacqui.
Bye, Allie. Bye, Samir.
Bye.